Hi, honey, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. I'm not sure why, but I've been really wanting to explore more modern builds lately. For today's video, we're heading to old trusty San Sequoia from the Growing Together expansion pack with a modern 2-bedroom house. Let's check it out. I started playing The Sims 4 sometime around the time that the Growing Together pack was releasing. And I just remember being so excited for it because this pack was really the first big pack being introduced after I started playing. Yeah, I know I might have been a little late to the game, but I still say that you can join The Sims anytime. This build is located on the 23 Eucalyptus Lane lot, which is a 30 by 20 lot in the Hopewell Hills neighborhood of San Sequoia. It's right next to the Michelson family lot and nearby to the Sequoia Cottage lot, which is where my founder sim lived in my current legacy challenge. I think when my Twitch chat and I were deciding where to build our first home in that save, it was actually between this lot and Sequoia Cottage, which ultimately won out. Since I just mentioned it, I might as well tell you a little bit about my legacy challenge. It's called the Around the World's Legacy Challenge, and I wrote it with my boyfriend, Cinnabon Andy. He actually has a shell challenge out right now. I'll link it in the description down below if you're interested, but there isn't too much time left to submit. Anyway, we wrote this legacy challenge because we found ourselves owning a lot of packs. But since we're both primarily builders, neither of us was really super familiar with the actual gameplay features tied to these packs. It's been really fun to play through, and right now we're currently on Generation 9. This gen is living in Tartosa and focused on my wedding stories, though most of the exploratory aspect of Generation 9 is over. Our next generation has actually only just aged up into a teen, so we'll be transitioning from his dad to him as our heir before you know it. Right now is actually a really good time to watch because you'll become familiar with Marco, our Generation 10 sim, and help me shape who he'll be before we officially start his generation. His gen is mostly going to be focused on Strangerville, which I'm very excited about because I know nothing about the gameplay and story of Strangerville, so no spoilers, please. Anyway, I just thought it was worth mentioning because I said earlier how I only really started playing around the time that Growing Together was releasing. So if you're the type of simmer who dives headfirst into accumulating packs without really knowing their gameplay, it might be a sort of beginner-friendly legacy to check out. I'll link the rules in the description for it too, though I have thought about moving them from this Google Doc to a Notion template. You'd be able to duplicate it and then mark things off as done as you progress through your own challenge. Just a thought that I had. For the overall shell of this build, I just knew that I wanted a sort of floating space on the upper floor that would be mostly glass. Everything else about this build, I mostly just decided off of vibes and how I felt as I progressed through the build. For instance, around now is where I start putting down fencing and marking off a place for a yard and setting up another adjoined space for a covered patio. With Royalty and Legacy having just released, I knew that I would be using those floor tile items as the cover for the patio. Other than that, I really didn't know where I was going with this, or even how many packs I'd be using. Again, I just knew that I wanted to do a sort of modern style build, and that it was going to be here on this lot in San Sequoia. I was also just hoping that I'd get this build finished within a reasonable amount of time because the other builds I'm currently working on are quite large and are taking a bit longer than I'd anticipated to finish. I don't think I've actually done a ton of builds like this, where there's a sort of bump out that seemingly floats. In an earlier generation in my Legacy Challenge, we were living in Del Sol Valley, and I built several mansions for those sims, and I did a few in this sort of style. But it's been a long time since I really made a build like those. So it was really exciting to get into platforms and floating bits and style everything in a way that felt very modern and sleek. Deciding what the build would ultimately look like, at least on the exterior, was surprisingly difficult after I finished working on the actual shell. I think because I truly only had glass floating area as my one checkmark for this build. Again, I very much went off of vibes and adjusted as I saw fit while working on this build. Narrowing down which packs I wanted to use is what seriously helped me start to have an actual vision though. The glass walls I was using are base game, but since I was using those floor tile items from Royalty and Legacy and building in Growing Together's world, I knew of at least 2 expansion packs that I should stick to. Genuinely, I'm happy with this build because I somehow ended up limiting packs, but I think that made it easier to finish. Sometimes I could work on a build and get it done in no time because I'm not limiting myself to specific packs. But other times, I think when you're doing something like this, mostly working off of vibes, it can completely derail you and give you more indecision than anything else. Overall, I'm pretty sure this build only uses 2 expansions, 1 game pack, 1 stuff pack, and a handful of kits. So definitely not the most limited pack build I've ever done, but still more limited than I've typically shared on here in the past. I've been really lucky enough to have been gifted packs by friends and community members, as well as having a boyfriend who indulged me in accumulating packs. You may have also noticed the watermark in the corner of the video. Shortly after becoming a Simmer, I was lucky enough to be invited to the Sims Partner Program. So some of the packs I have were provided to me by The Sims. So when Royalty and Legacy just released, I was able to check it out in early access with my Twitch community, all thanks to The Sims. But I think I forget a lot that not everyone has so many packs. So I've sort of given myself a challenge this year to share more limited pack builds. If there's any kind of pack combinations you'd like to see me work on in a future build, feel free to let me know in the comments. Now that we're moving towards the interior of the build, I have to say how much fun I had working on this build as a whole. I was able to do something sort of funky with the entrance, using the Growing Together wallpapers and the Royalty and Legacy open air windows. It definitely made me feel like I was adding a bit more structural integrity to that floating upper floor by adding in that extra wall leading to the front door. The kitchen itself was also really fun to play around with because I wanted this to be a bit of a larger kitchen. I have this thing with windows in my kitchens though. I really hate when kitchen cabinets are visible or are covering up a window. So originally I was working around that big picture window until I decided that no matter how I oriented the cabinets and island counters, it just wasn't going to work unless I switched out that window. Unfortunately, that choice made the kitchen itself a bit darker, but I think it was the better choice overall. You'll see later in the video, but there's going to be a pool on the other side of that wall, and having such a large picture window, I think, would have been a little bit awkward looking. I'm also realizing now that I'm using that newer base game kitchen set, and I don't remember why I decided I didn't want to use the new set from Royalty and Legacy. I wonder if it felt like it wouldn't fit in with the modern look as much, or I wasn't a fan of the swatch options. Whatever it was, I do think that this set works well in this build. Sometimes it can be really hard to stick with one sort of style when there's maybe not enough build buy to match it throughout the whole build, especially when it comes to limiting packs. I should let you know that in addition to being a Sims partner, I also have a creator code that you can use when purchasing pretty much any EA title. If you're in the market for packs for The Sims 4 specifically though, you'll earn a 5% discount if you use my creator code, Teknikolour. The commission I make from EA when my code gets used is really helpful, especially as a smaller creator who is doing all of this full time. I've been streaming full-time for almost 6 years now, and this is likely going to be my final year being able to go after my content creation dreams full-time. It's been hard as a creative to find steady work other than making content, so I'm also thinking of opening myself up to more opportunities other than just graphic design. So, if you're in need of a graphic designer, video editor, InDesign tutor, I don't know, let me know. Anyway, I'm mentioning my creator code for a specific reason right now. You may have heard that later this month, on March 17th, they are launching the Sims 4 Marketplace. And kits and a new thing called Maker Packs will be moving exclusively there. You'll need an in-game currency called Moolah to purchase them, and you won't be able to just grab kits off of the EA app or anything anymore. I don't know how I feel about this new marketplace. They're trying to push it as a positive thing because, like creator kits, it'll allow custom content makers to earn from their content that's on the marketplace. That also means that console players benefit because they can't use custom content currently. So this sort of is a workaround to that, which I think would feel more like a positive if the marketplace was also launching on consoles in a couple of weeks. But it isn't. It'll still take a couple of months before console players even see the marketplace. You'll be able to continue supporting my content by using my creator code while purchasing this new Moolah currency, which I think is nice, but that 5% discount won't apply to Moolah purchases. So right now, you can grab kits with a discount using my code, but in the future, it looks like my code will only provide a discount when purchasing Sims 4 expansions, game, and stuff packs. By the way, all of this is coming during a time where a lot of people are unhappy with EA, the publisher of The Sims. If you weren't aware, last year there was a big announcement that EA, or Electronic Arts, would be going private in a $55 million sale later this year. You may not think this is a big deal, but it really is for two reasons. One, the buyers in this sale seemingly counter the values of The Sims. So while The Sims has kind of become synonymous with inclusivity, releasing packs and free content that brings much needed representation to underrepresented communities, these new owners could simply say, stop. They could remove these things that have existed for years in games or were even just recently introduced if they want to. Will they? I don't know. This is the reason why a lot of Simmers have been boycotting the game entirely or just not purchasing new packs. Or if they're a content creator like me, not even covering new releases. It's their hope that this will send a message to EA that we are not on board with this sale. The other reason that this sale is a big deal is because it could become the largest leveraged buyout to date. Listen, I'm just a simmer, so I don't really know exactly what that all means, but I do know that it caught the attention of the United States Congress, and they've already called upon the Federal Trade Commission to do a thorough review of the acquisition before allowing it to pass. There's also currently a petition on Action Network by Players Alliance, which I'll link down below if you'd like to sign, which also aims to stop the sale. Look, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about this sale or dictate politics to you, but I also don't know of a single simmer, or gamer in general, that seems to be happy about this sale. So please, do your own research and let The Sims, EA, and your local representatives know your position. By the way, if your position means that you're not going to be supporting The Sims or EA financially by not purchasing packs, including using my creator code with that discount, I completely understand. I'm not actively boycotting, and I'm still using my position to explore early access when I have access to it. I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing or not, but I do feel like it's my responsibility to let you know what's going on so you can make that decision for yourself. If you decide to join the boycott, which all the power to you, and you won't be purchasing packs or using my code for that discount, just know that you can support me in many free ways. Watching this video or my others, coming to my Twitch live streams, or even just dropping me a follow on other social media platforms helps me out way more than you'd think. If you truly want to show me some form of financial support, thank you. I am so grateful. I should mention that over on Twitch, I'll be celebrating my birthday with a potential 12-hour stream on March 21st. I try to make these big stream events like my birthday or anniversary fun for everyone, but there will be things you can do to support, like tipping on Ko-fi, that will unlock extra fun. Maybe even a couple of giveaways. Just thought I'd mention it. I do typically do sim speed builds during these streams too, which has been quite exciting. All right, now while I've been yapping, we've finished the kitchen and foyer and are now working on the main living space before we move on upstairs. I'm gonna be so real with you right now. I tried very hard not to use the Casanova Cave Kit's television. I did, I promise. It's just a really good TV and one of my favorites to build with. You can see I tried making the Grange Mudroom kit work with another TV. And no matter what I did, this space just felt like it was missing that wow factor. So the Casanova Cave Kit, it was. I also decided to use some of the modular furniture from the new expansion, and I think it works really well in this room. I also brought in a larger plant, an ottoman, and a low table behind the couch. I used a rug and some smaller accent items to help bring the space together as a whole too. The staircase also received a railing and gave me a basis to use for upstairs. The landing space acts as a hallway leading to 2 bedrooms and a main bathroom, but also as a kind of family room. I included space for a desk here in the actual landing space at the top of the stairs. But then on the other side of the room, there's sort of another living room. I think this works as a place to be away from the TV, maybe do some reading or host a game night. Plus, I gave us a sort of small catwalk from one end of this floor to the other with openings to below on each side. I feel like I tend to do this a lot in my more modern builds, making a catwalk or having a space open down to below. I wonder if I should explore that more in other styles of builds. In that large glass floating section, I fit 2 bedrooms. One that I designed for a teenager and another that acts as the primary bedroom with its own ensuite. I have to come clean about something here though. This space, you might notice, gets decorated very quickly compared to everywhere else in the video. Weird, right? Well, actually, it took a bit longer than this, but unfortunately, I had taken a break before I moved on to these bedrooms and stopped recording, and then forgot to start the recording again when I came back to work on it. So since I only noticed after I'd practically finished both of these 2 rooms, it looks like I just suddenly know what I'm doing and decorate them super quickly. I might need to be more observant of when I am and am not recording, because this is not even the first time that that's happened. Now though, I've basically found my footing for the overall build, so I start working on the final details like walls and flooring, decorating, that sort of thing. This is also the point where I focus on the exterior again and plan out how I want that to look. I really love the entrance to this build, but it felt as if it needed something to bring us to the side and back of the house, especially because I had no intention of adding a gate to the front. By extending out the pathway and continuing it around into the backyard, it helps to give us that more connected feeling. I also used this opportunity to mark off spaces I could use for landscaping. This is where I start to wonder if I chose the wrong location for this build, just because you'll see we lean more towards warmer weather landscaping in a few minutes. Picking out trees that could work on this lot was interesting too, because I really didn't give us too much room for trees. I like how the trees I use on the left side on the lot are thinner and taller, so they provide a bit more shade to the spaces that would need it. Then on the right side, I have a tree that I hope looks like it kind of grew around the fence, that is leaves the hang a bit lower and gives some privacy to the backyard. In the backyard itself, I knew that I wanted to add a pool, but I kind of felt like this wasn't a ton of space for a pool. I think, in terms of pathing for your Sims, it should be fine though. I did extend out the paved area more and took away some from that landscape space too. I really dig these water features or fountains from the new expansion pack too, so I had those at the corners to give us a bit more visual interest and to make this spot look less flat. I think before I added in the barbecue area, the only place I was using the perfect patio stuff pack was for the backyard fence. You could probably get away with substituting the fence itself out for another taller type of fencing and a different barbecue. I might have used a couple of other items from that pack here and there, but I don't think it was too much. I don't know why we don't have that many taller fences in the game, because this, to me, is what a fence looks like. The others are more suited for a front yard sort of situation, I'd say. This kind of fence is a backyard fence. Am I alone in this? I kind of feel like I might be, because there really are so few taller fence types in the game. As for the patio space, I wanted this area to not be part of the fenced-in yard. Not sure if that makes a ton of sense. I feel like you might want privacy for your pool and lounging area, but here you might gather with friends and neighbors and dine and hang out. It's close to the barbecue itself, as well as the kitchen, so I think it works. I think I mostly just didn't want this to be a screened in or fenced in space, so I had the gate to the yard at the far end. Then I remembered the new yard charm kit that just dropped, which I kind of adore. I really love that we have more options for house numbers, though I will be honest that I somehow missed the numbers on the mailbox itself. Spent some time trying to hide those since I already mounted some house numbers on the side of this wall, but oh well. I also took the opportunity to add in a debug car here because of the cutout to the curb for this lot. This is a big sore subject for me because I hate that we have these cutouts on some lots which really indicate the use of a car on that lot. So you may want to include a debug car or a carport or a garage of some kind, but we don't really have cars in game, so we don't have much to help us achieve that. And we don't really have matching flooring or terrain paint to blend in the curb cutout and sidewalk with what we can use on the actual lot in build mode. I know I can't be the only person frustrated by this. It just seems so much of an odd thing for the Sims team to include these curb cutouts, but then also make it so hard for us to decorate around them. This pathing and this little car, I think, makes sense, but it honestly was a bit of an afterthought for me. I saw that there was some extra room on this side near the cutout and figured I'd just put down a debug car. Heading inside again, this is kind of where I start deciding what the interior should look like, at least in terms of wall paint and flooring. I've seen a few other builders also do this part towards the end, if not dead last. Is this weird? When do you do this part in your builds if you're a builder? I think it just makes sense, and I don't mind shifting around wall-mounted things if they don't quite work with the wall paint I end up choosing. But I know building it this way, for instance, feels so bizarre to my boyfriend. I hadn't even realized I was building in this kind of way until he pointed it out to me. Also, full disclosure, the primary bedroom and kitchen almost didn't get decorated. I think I've been forgetting to decorate my kitchens in general in a lot of builds. Like, I set them up and I might put down a fruit bowl or something, but then tend to overlook them by the time I finish the build. Not quite sure how I forgot to decorate those bookcases in the bedroom though. Part of this was actually done after I'd finished the build and I had to start recording again because I was looking at the build and I was like, now, we can't leave those 2 spaces empty. Come on now. Anyway, as we start working on landscaping here, I thought I'd mention my birthday stream again. No worries if live streams aren't your type of thing, but if you were interested, I have the link to my Twitch channel in the description. I really love the 2 big celebratory streams that I do each year, and my birthday is always a lot of fun. This year, though, I think I'm leaning towards growing up a bit more, if that makes sense. Since I started making content, I feel like I've mostly been PG-13, or someone anyone could tune into. But I think as I've grown as a creator and as a person, I might start leaning away from that. You probably won't see much of a difference here on this channel, but you may see me playing more of other types of games over on Twitch. I've loved playing games like The Last of Us, and I hope we can unlock me playing the sequel on my birthday stream. The Styx games, which we just started the 3rd installment of, things like that. It's just something I've been thinking about doing for a while. This birthday stream, though, it's usually a lot of fun, and I try to make it super interactive for everyone in chat. So I might be playing some Sims, building, but maybe even some gameplay, but also we'll be playing more community style games. Think Mario Kart, Jackbox games, Clue, etc. There's also tons of things for people to enjoy throughout the stream itself, which again, could go on for 12 hours. Shameless self-promotion, but it could be fun. So think about it. As for this build though, we're pretty much at the end of it here. So let me pop open the game and give you a quick tour. Okay, so we're in the game now, and this is the new 23 Eucalyptus lane build that I've done, and I really like this. I think it is kind of different from stuff that I normally would build, but I don't know. This was really fun to work on. So on the first floor, you can see that the entrance is over here and Yasim could just get out of this car. But then we have the backyard with the pool, and that has this outdoor patio space. And then we have the foyer, the kitchen, and then the living room on the first floor. Upstairs, you have the primary bedroom with its own ensuite bathroom. Then there is a main bathroom for the rest of the family over here. And then we have the teenager's bedroom. And then on this side, in the rest of the house, the stairs just go up. There is a little desk here. There's a fish tank. And then over here is kind of just like where you could have like family game night or just a regular little family room without the TV. But that, my friends, is my entire 23 Eucalyptus lane build. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and then grab the build off of the gallery. To add it to your game, you can find it using my EA ID, Teknikolour. If you'd like to see more of my builds and other cozy gaming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss future uploads. If you want even more Sims content, consider dropping me a follow over on Twitch. I live stream my pack-based legacy challenge every Thursday, but play other cozy games throughout the week. Planning on picking up Royalty and Legacy or any other packs, please consider using my creator code, Teknikolour, when checking out on the EA app. It's free for you and supports the channel. Plus, my code can now be used on so many other EA titles, not just The Sims, though that discount only applies for Sims 4 packs. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye!